Brad.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay.
All right.
Yep, I'm on.
Okay.
All right, good afternoon, people. Welcome to Urban Voices Radio. Today we are doing a special Zoom version because Miss Gentry was not able to make it into the studio. But I wanted to introduce you guys to Louisville Metro Police Department's new interim chief, Miss Yvette Gentry. How you doing, Miss Gentry?
I'm doing okay. How about yourself?
I'm great. Look, we brought you on because we just want to give an introduction to the people, and we want to get to kind of know you, and talk about a few topics. I know there's some parameters that we can't get into, obviously, because of the optics of LMPD right now. But we'll basically get into the show. Now, you are one thing I like about this. Let me start is that you're a native. You're a native. So you are a Central High School graduate. You went to the University of Louisville. You actually joined Louisville Metro Police Department back in 1990, I believe, in communications. And then your career started as an actual officer in 94. And I believe you reached the deputy chief in 2011, correct?
Yep, you got it correct.
Okay, so now I'm gonna tell you what threw me off a little bit is that I think it's great. That you're chief, for one. I'll say that. Mm-hmm. What threw me off a little bit was that I believe you retired from LMPD back in 2015. So I didn't look for LMPD to hire someone outside of the department, which I'll say there's I guess positive and negatives to everything. I see a positive because, and these are my words, not yours, to me, there need to be a structural change, which inside LMPD from someone who wasn't currently part of that culture. So I see that as one of the positives. But for you, what made you decide to, as being retired from the force, to come back in, especially to serve in a position as chief under this climate that we're in now? Are you there, Ms. Gentry? Did she freeze on us? It looks like her screen may be frozen. I don't know if she's having technical problems on her end or not. Can you guys? Yeah, it looks like she's having a little trouble. She muted for a minute. Okay, I think she's coming back in.
Yeah, I kind of lost you. It looks like our feed is going.
Yeah, it does like
in and out. But right. I don't know what my options are.
We can hear you though.
Okay.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll go for a minute. Okay. So did you hear my question or do I need to repeat?
Yeah, I didn't hear any of your question. I just heard you talking about me coming back after 5 years. That was it.
Okay. Yeah, okay. It kind of I was surprised with you coming back because you were no longer part of the force. You retired in 2015. So like I said, there's positive and negatives to everything. Being that you weren't currently a part of the force, I think it's a positive because I think we need someone coming into that position that isn't currently a part of the LMPD culture. But it was shocking that someone from the outside came in. So can you tell us, being retired for 5 years, what made you decide to take the position to come back, especially at the chief position?
Well, I'll just be honest with you. I had a good life, right? I was working for an NBA player, really no stress. The brother valued me and taking care of me, but I was really concerned. I really expressed no interest. People were asking me initially after Conrad left, was I going to apply for the job? And I had no interest in it. And then a lot of things started to take place. And then I started to ask myself, do I really want to get into this? And of course, my family was not interested. But I know that police department really inside and out. And I know the city pretty well as far as I'm talking about the internal works of the city, how contracts go, how hiring goes, all of those things. And I felt like that it was an opportunity for me to get in here and say, I fear them bringing in a chief from the outside immediately that doesn't know the city, that doesn't know that, and then us going right back to where we were. And so I said, well, let me put my foot in this door a little bit and keep it cracked open and insert some truth, because I know some of the systems and the systems that need to be changed. And let me just do my part. And then they can bring somebody in here with pomp and circumstance and all of that. But we need some change. And so I wanted to insert myself and to be a part of that change that we are all, seeking so desperately right now.
I completely understand. Now, look, I have to ask you so we just get it off the top and address it. I'm sure you're aware that a lot of people, I don't want to speak for everyone, but I've heard the chatter that some people feel that, okay, the death of Breonna Taylor happened, the city is in turmoil, and this is the new female Black person to pacify us. What response do you have to that?
Well, I think anybody knows me that I'm not the type of person to pacify anybody. And I would just say this, it was absolutely a play. The mayor made a play, but I'm a player too. I'm not a pawn. So there's a big difference between being a player and a pawn. And so when I come in here, I'm very clear. When I get sworn in on May, I'm already there, but I'm not training up on lead stuff so that I can hit the ground running. But I get sworn in on October 1st. I'm ready to do some work. And so I'm nobody's pawn, and anybody who knows me will tell you that that's not how this works. And so you should actually absolutely hold me accountable for some things. But I've been meeting with people, and I want to, have a shared vision for the community. But I
You get a little choppy there. I think you're out for now. Your audio's out for now.
Yeah.
Her audio's out for a minute, and there seems to be like some, a bad internet connection maybe on her end. I don't know what type of room she's in, but we'll let her come back in and finish answering the question. But in the meantime, go ahead, Sean.
No, I was just going, saying as far as, the climate of what's going on now, and with the Breonna Taylor case, what changes can we look forward to as far as it goes, and how she felt about the decision.
We'll see if she can get back in, because I don't think she can hear your question right now. But one thing I do want to say is that she just acknowledged something, and I'm glad she acknowledged that she said, yeah, the mayor definitely made a play, but I'm a player too. And I get that. She may be trying to come back in the room in a second. We'll see if we can get her in, because she just logged out. But she said the mayor made a play and I'm a player too. And I get that. In all spaces of business, people make plays and people use people for certain situations, but she's saying, hey, look, it looks good for the mayor to bring me in, but also it gives me the opportunity to come in and do the work, and I'm not a pawn. So
am I back up?
Yep, you're back up now.
Yes, ma'am.
On my end, it shows that your mic is muted. We'll give her a second or two, though. But yeah, I think from what I've heard about Miss Gentry is that, she's about her business. She's about her business. So I look for her to come in and kind of shake things up. Like I said, there's a positive and negative to both. So we'll see what comes. Sean, you're on mute. I wasn't.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I'm just saying, with her not been on the force for 5 years, she's been on the outside looking in. So I feel like that, she has a good view of what needs to be changed and things like that. Sitting on the outside, but she know the dynamics of how it works on the inside.
Myself, I'm not happy with the inside hire. Not Miss Gentry. I'm saying we had Schroeder, whatever his name is, come in and replace Conrad. And I think Schroeder was just he was right under Conrad. I don't know if he was a deputy chief, but he was, in that administration. So for me, it really didn't even change hands when Schroeder came in. So in my opinion, someone needs to come in from the outside and shake this entire department up as a whole, because as we see, there appears to be a culture in that department that may have been started under Conrad that doesn't appear to be, a healthy culture.
Hey, Brad, it says that the host got everybody muted. Just see if you can unmute everybody.
Yeah, it's not on my end. I'm looking clear. I can hear you fine, Sean. But
I know I'm just, just try to see if you can unmute her.
I think I'm back up.
You're back up?
Yeah, you up.
I think I'm back up. I don't know
Zoom
if
is
taking my
wild, but,
Zoom is crazy.
you
So
are
if I
back up.
take my picture off and y'all don't see me, sometimes my feed is better, but I don't know which one, So if y'all want to leave my If I can put the picture up when I had my hair done and all of that stuff, then you can hear me better, I think.
I mean, whichever one you think works best for you.
It's okay, but I was kind of mid-question, so start wherever. I hate that it's kind of been disconnected here, but I'm here as long as you need me, so go ahead.
No, I think, Brad, you had the question about, I guess we just go from there. How do you feel about the decision about the Breonna Taylor's case, if you can elaborate a little bit on it?
Okay, I'll just tell you, I was sitting with my pen, actually the same pad and pen in hand, because, I'm going in there, I was waiting for the evidence to be presented, and it absolutely fell short. And I was disappointed too, just to not know from the beginning to the end. I felt like the story kind of started in the middle when the AG was given his information. And I think people just looking for the facts from the beginning to the end. And so I'll tell you, I'm committed to that too. We need to know from the time the affidavit was presented to the judge, what was accurate, if it was anything inaccurate on there, all the way through the execution of the warrant and then to the supervision of the warrant. So those are the questions that I think most people want to know, like what happened. And I still think that it's pretty sad that we're 6-7 months in and nobody still has those answers. So that is absolutely something that I'm committed to finding out from the beginning to end and being able to share that with the community.
Now, before we broke up, you were saying that the mayor definitely made a play, but you're a player yourself. And I understand that, and I absolutely respect that. And from the outside, it does appear that it is a good move for the mayor to bring in a female chief, particularly a Black female chief. That is a good move for him politically. For you, can you explain what you meant by you're a player as well? Does that mean that, okay, the mayor is getting what he needs out of this, but does it also give you an opportunity to come in and change things for the better? Is that what you mean by that? Can you elaborate a little more? That's
exactly what I mean. It's exactly what I mean. It's saying come in here with an agenda. I've talked to a lot of the activists and everything too, and say, okay, here we are. I'm being brought in here for whatever reasons. We're not even going to talk about that. But the reality is, it's all about what I do while I'm here. You hold me accountable for what I do while I'm here. I want to make sure we get equity. I mean, we cannot take up space for 120 days and protest and then just leave with what? Louisville is 33,000 affordable housing units short of affordable housing. Only 3% of the housing built in the last 20 years has been affordable for people. So gentrification is real. We're being priced out of everything. It's interesting. I grew up in Smoketown, kind of Fort Hill, but my first house I owned is still in Smoketown over off Shelby in Kentucky. And, for all this time that I've owned it, it's been valued at $40,000. But when white folks started to move into my neighborhood, all of a sudden the house next door to me is worth $175,000. That's not right. So we got to address things like that. Also, I started to hear some of the demands that some of the protesters were making, and I felt like we should take it to the next level on that. I don't want 25% of the $8 to $10 an hour jobs that are in Nulu. I want us to get 25% of the living wage jobs that Humana has and GE has and all these other things have. So I absolutely felt like I can come in here because I know the system of procurement and how contracts are done and say, how do we take it to a level of equity that our lives are better? So just onboarding the city and civil unrest, calming down and settling a civil suit and, having an AG review leaves where does that leave the rest of the Black people in this community? And so that's what I wanted to come in here and set us on an arc towards, alongside of the reforms with the police department.
Okay.
Have you thought about taking?
I have a two-part question for you. Traditionally, well, I don't know because I haven't been a police officer, but from the outside looking in, it always appears that not just LMPD, but any police force, it always comes across that the chief of police is a direct hire of the mayor. Therefore, they are essentially a mouthpiece for the mayor, or the mayor is in total control of that police force. During your press conference, I heard you say that you made it clear when you took the position that you will be able to operate the department the way you want to operate the department, not necessarily directly how the mayor wants to direct the department or instruct the department. That was one thing. Secondly, you are coming in as an interim to, I guess, fill the space or fill the position until a permanent chief is hired. Estimates, I don't know, anywhere from 3 months. We could be here a year. Do you think in that amount of time, is it long enough for you to be able to create significant change?
I think I can absolutely start us on the arc towards significant change. And so for your first question, the mayor is absolutely my appointing authority. But that doesn't mean you're under somebody's total control, because he has the option to appoint me, and then he has the option to remove me, not the option to control me. And I think that's a difference. And so I wanted to be very clear that I am a different type of person. And I know very clearly, Yvette Gentry would not have been the choice if shit wasn't bad. Okay, let's just be clear, right? I wouldn't have been the choice for a lot of reasons, but mainly because, you know, I say what I feel like I need to say, and I'm just not a person that's gonna be put into a box and do some things that I don't feel like are appropriate or ethical. So the mayor is absolutely my appointing authority, and he can at any time that he wants to fire me, but I'm not going to be under control or the thumb of somebody and do something that I don't feel like is right.
Coming in now, we don't have to discuss this if you don't want to, and I understand that coming in. But is there an agenda that you have going in, or are there some things that you've already jotted down or mentally know that you need to address when you take over?
Absolutely. I mean, I think that there is a lot. I'm already seeing just, you know, some things that the police department had in place that have been lifted. So I want to make sure that we have the proper controls in place to make sure that, you know, people talk about where are the good officers? Well, you know, the lack of discipline and some leadership is problematic. When you got putting out stuff on Facebook about these are going to be the people washing our cars, where does that leave the frontline officer that's been out there for a year or for 2 years? What kind of message is that setting? So the leadership and the discipline is going to be something that absolutely I have to look at from day one. But like I said, I'm not here for a single issue struggle. I know what I have to do in the police department, and you're going to see me do that work. But I'm talking about across all systems, how
For a minute. Are you back, Ms. Gentry? Sean, are you and T still with me?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, we still here.
Okay, we'll give her a second. She may come back in a second. I don't know if that's. I'm not at home now, so I'm at a third-party location, and there may be a weak signal here. I'm not sure if it's my signal or her signal.
It's always the operator. We always gonna blame the operator.
Blame me. Blame me. I don't know if the internet connection is very well here where I'm at, but we're getting her in and out, and she's giving some
valid points. You know what I'm saying? It makes you very optimistic about what's coming and what's going.
And I'll say from like I said, for me, the pros are that the experience is definitely there. She's been involved. She's been in the force since 1990. So we're looking at what, 20 years?
20 years. But she also part of the community, and I think
that's 30 years.
Right.
Yeah. But I also think the bonus is that she's a part of the community also, and she's been living here.
Right. She's a part of the community. She's from this community, and she appears to be somebody that runs her own show. So those are the positives going into this. Do we have you back, Ms. Gentry?
Yeah, I'm back.
Okay, you're back. When you went out, you were saying that you are your own person, and you know no one can quote control you. And then we started losing you. Then no, you started to say that it's not just about the police department. You want to bring change all across the board for particularly people of color, but for the city of Louisville in general.
Yeah, and the police department too. We have got to get some more. When we're 10% Black people, and let me say this because I don't think this is something people realize. Before there was a public protest in March of 2020, there was a group of Black officers in 2019 that brought some of the same concerns up to the chief of police. Internally. They met with them internally, right? Before there was a protest in 2020, there was a group of Black officers and some white officers that came to Chief Conrad and said, look, we are not happy with the way things are headed in this police department. We got units that don't have any Black people in them. We got divisions that don't have any Black people in them. Our training doesn't have any Black instructors in them. This was in 2019. So I want people to understand that just because you work on the police department doesn't mean that you can condone all the behaviors, and that there's activism that's taking place in a lot of places. And this is a year in advance of any march for Breonna Taylor. So I want people to have hope, to know that there were people already realizing that we need more Black police officers. We need more, we need some change in this agency. We need to make sure we have some controls. So absolutely, I'm not coming in here acting as if like everything's gonna be roses and here I am. And I don't know if you all are aware, but when people started talking about even mentioning my name, I got hit with some racism on the department, like that Negro ain't gonna be our chief, and threatening to come to me and take me out and all of that kind of stuff.
I'm not aware of that. Was that like what, social media?
On social media. So so I'm very clear. And a lot of my history people don't really realize. In 2005, when I worked my behind off right after having my twins, I became number 2 on the lieutenant's list, and I had to go all the way to circuit court because they filed an injunction because they wanted to see my scores, because they didn't feel like I was good enough or smart enough to be number 2 without cheating. And so I'm very aware of how the systems feel about, have felt about Black people, Black women in this police department. We've come a long way. I'm saying that was 2005, that was 15 years ago. Along with those, pretty much everybody who sued for that is gone now. And so I want to make sure that the younger officers who I was at that time don't feel boxed in like I did and felt like I didn't have anybody support me when they were coming for me.
And I mean, it is, and it's problematic, right? For me, it's problematic because I was having this discussion a few months ago with, I believe his name is Amore. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it wrong. I'm sorry. It was Amore Baker. He's actually, we all know Sir Friendly C. He's Sir Friendly C's son. And we were having a discussion a few months ago. I'm not a native of Louisville, but I've been here over 20 years. And we were having a discussion about racism in the police department. And I was arguing with him that in cities that I've lived in before, like Oakland, California, Indianapolis, Indiana, Detroit, Michigan, I was arguing with him that I've seen racism on another level. And I just didn't think LMPD had that level of racism in it. And he's like, bruh, you're not aware, right? And so we went back and forth, but I've seen racial profiling and things like that everywhere, but I haven't seen what I call blatant racism until these protests start taking place. I've seen racism take place, or I've seen racism, and I've also seen us versus them mentality, which I think is dangerous when a police department or certain members, I don't want to paint everyone under that umbrella, but when certain members have a us versus them mentality, it's not good for anyone in the community, not for police officers or for the citizens that they're sworn to protect. Right. So I'm glad that you are a person of color and a female. And by the way, congratulations, because you are the first African-American female chief of police in the city of Louisville. I don't know if people recognize or want to acknowledge that, but that's the reality. So congratulations there. But I am glad to have you as a chief, and I'm glad that you chimed in with us today to let people get to know you. Is there anything else you want to let the people know before going out that you haven't mentioned yet?
I just want to reiterate, I mean, Louisville Metro Police, when I left, was a good police department. And I still believe it is a good police department. I think there has been some significant leadership failures that have started them on an arc away from where we were when we had our former chief, Chief White. And I know people don't want to hear that, but when we had Chief White said, and it really wasn't popular years ago, we got to get past doing what we can justify versus what is necessary. And that has to be the goal for a police department. So when you listen to Daniel Cameron say we can justify, that is a justifiable shooting or X, Y, and Z, that can't be the goal. That cannot be a goal for the good police department. When that wasn't our goal in 2003, that wasn't our goal in 2010, why is it going to be our goal in 2020 and 2021? We have got to get past that. So the men and women that you see every day, I have faith that we're going to get where we need to go, but the goal has to be beyond justification and just to necessity. It has to be.
I
got one more question. I got one more question before you go. Is by any chance we can get you to stay longer if you with all the changes that you're trying to make?
You know what my fear was, Sean, why I didn't apply for the full-time job, and this is just to be honest with you. Typically in government, anything Black-led means underfunded and over-researched. I felt like if I had to go before a council to get a budget in 2021, that they would take the money, not because they were underfunding because it was the right thing to do, just because I was Black. And that's just the truth. When I led other organizations across the city, I was always underfunded. And so there was always this big, display of people's displeasure with Chief Conrad, but 7 years in a row, he got exactly what he wanted. And that's the inequities that I'm talking about fighting against. So if I thought that I could go through and get fairness and equity, I probably would have applied for the job. But I mean, that's just the real. I felt like they'll take all my resources and expect me to do more with less, because that's what typically happens when Black women are leading.
All right.
Before you get out of here, I'm glad you brought up a point. And you mentioned that Chief Conrad was fully funded. And the fear is that you may be underfunded, or Blacks historically have been underfunded when they're running departments. There is a movement now asking people to defund police departments. And I'm not an expert on that topic, just general knowledge. It comes across that I don't know if people actually want to defund the budget for police, but I think it's multifaceted. I think some people want to allocate funds in the police budget to allow officers to do other things besides just police, maybe to bring in, I guess, social workers or things of that nature. When you're looking at a budget, from experience, we don't even know how a budget works. So when a police department gets a budget, from your knowledge, what ways are those funds allocated out throughout the police department?
Well, I can tell you this, the police don't make much money. So you had a 23-year-old brother get shot the other day to maybe make $40,000 right now, and he only been on less than a year, right? So the money's not going to the police officers. So defunding, I think is a word that's confusing to a lot of people. Divesting in things that make sense, I think is okay. This is the thing about law enforcement people don't really think about. Law enforcement has been asked to do everything out after 5 o'clock. And then it's just ridiculous, especially when it comes to mental health and all of that stuff. So it frustrates me because I remember taking like a 40-hour class on crisis intervention and then going to a run and then just being totally inadequately prepared to deal with somebody in a mental health crisis. Yet the mental health community has not mobilized. They have not figured out how to keep their hours open to midnight. They closing up at 5 o'clock. A lot of the mental health hospitals have closed. And so divesting by making sure that people who are properly prepared to deal with the issues have the resources they need, I will be all for that. But it's just very frustrating that police officers are doing everything. They're giving Narcan to people who are overdosing and doing all this stuff, and especially with the mental health. And then when it goes bad, people like, oh, the police shouldn't have did this, they shouldn't have did that. How ridiculous is it to keep having people who are not trained properly to respond to this, to continue to be the ones to respond to this? It would be crazy to go to U of L hospital and have a foot doctor operate on your heart. And that's what you're asking the police department to do. So that's crazy. So if you can take money from that to put social workers or to help increase the capacity of somebody else, that absolutely makes sense. That is defunding that will be done smartly. But don't just look at the city budget overall. I mean, I was frustrated when I was chief of community building when nobody ever questioned how much money went to control and help animals. And I just said, just match my budget, what you spending on animals. I couldn't get that. And that's the crazy part of us saying it's not a single issue struggle. How can nobody ever question if dogs need whatever, they got they built a new animal shelter and my community centers were falling down. So we just got to figure out, the budget is our moral document. The overall city budget is our moral document. Where are we spending our money?
All right, so we're going to go out on this note. Let me ask you this. Going out the door, Yvette Gentry comes in October 1st, first day of work. We don't know the length of the stay of the position. Maybe 3 months, maybe 6, maybe a year, whatever it is. At the end of this, when it's up and we hire, the city hires a new police chief, what would Yvette Gentry have liked to accomplish with her time as chief of LMPD?
I will have answered from start to finish what happened with Breonna Taylor's case, right? What happened? Just put the facts out there. Let the chips fall where they are, but put that out there. Secondly, I'm going to look at the resources across the city and figure out, how do we unboard the houses that have been boarded forever? How do we look at economic? How do we look at procurement in the city? That is not something people think about a lot. City government spends a lot of money in contracts. How do we make sure that African-American contractors get the proper percentage of the dollars, not the contracts? Because I can give you 23% of the contracts, which means I can give you 23% of the caterings that's $1,000, but I could give one contract to somebody for 30 million. So how do we get the dollars shifted? How do we, have the resources to start rebuilding our community for real, so that we're not always in a position where we feel like we need charity? 75% of Black people live on 5% of the land. That's a reparation conversation we need to have. People don't want to have that, but land equity is a really, really big deal. And so at the end of Yvette Gentry, whether I'm inside as a chief or the outside, I've not been quiet in the 5 years I've been retired. And so I want to go in here and start us on an arc towards equity. And then I'll be outside just like you are, holding the city accountable for doing what they said they were going to do.
There it is, people. I have one request before we get out of here. And my request is simple. Being that you will be taking over as chief, there is, which you're aware, there is a distrust between the police department and the Black community. I don't think that's just an LMPD issue. I think that's, an American issue. There's a distrust. When you have press conferences and you're addressing the public, typically cities tend to bring in a lot of the mainstream media. We're independent media. We do independent media here. We cater to the African-American community. Right. We would ask that at least you consider including myself or my team or another independent media group in at some of these press conferences just to tell the story. And we're unbiased. Well, we're targeting a Black audience, but I mean, we do give the information pretty fair, I believe. So we just ask that myself or any other independent Black media outlet, somebody's at the table when these press conferences are taking place, so we can pass the story on to people as well. Absolutely. I would be, it would be wrong for the first Black female to be in there and not give access to her people. So I hear you. There it is, people. That is Miss Yvette Gentry, taking place Louisville LMPD Chief of Police October 1st, correct? Yes, Thursday.
Thank you.
Thursday, she helps to hit the ground running. People tune in to Urban Voices Radio every Saturday afternoon at 1 p.m. on 106.3 FM, and we're out of here. Thank you, Miss Gentry.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.